Well, another interesting and, of course, ongoing story is around the unrest that took place in July last year. The Human Rights Commission will continue to hear evidence from key witnesses today about the July 2021 unrest in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. Now, the Commission's Gauteng leg of the hearings began in Sandton, north of Johannesburg, yesterday. About 350 people also died in the week-long violence and looting that caused billions of rands of damage to businesses and infrastructure. Police Minister Bheki Cele was the first witness for this Gauteng leg, and he told the Commission, among other things, that the situation in KwaZulu-Natal became worse after the decision to jail former President Jacob Zuma for contempt of court. So for more on these hearings and, of course, what transpired yesterday, let's cross to SABC News reporter Chriselda, who is in Sandton at the venue. Chriselda, good morning. So very interesting revelations by the police minister yesterday. Among them there, of course, the fact that he received the intelligence report after the fact. So it has been interesting.
Absolutely, Sakina. Quite shocking what we heard come out of these hearings yesterday. The police minister, Bheki Cele, basically saying that he'd received that intelligence report on the 3rd of December. And you'd recall that that is the date that he had testified in what was the first leg of these hearings, which were held in KwaZulu-Natal. That's where the violence had broken out, if you can remember. So this is about a little over 5 months after the fact, which really begs to ask the question, who had the document? Why was the document not sent to the police minister? Remember, he's been adamant, Sakina, there'd even been a spat, which I alluded to yesterday when I spoke to you on the program, is that there'd even been a spat about whether he had received the report. The then State Security Minister, Ayanda Dlodlo, who is amongst those who's expected to testify here today. I understand sometime in the afternoon. This morning it will be the acting provincial commissioner at the time of the unrest, General Tommy Mtombeni, who will testify here in these hearings this morning. So remember that spat had taken place between the two, Ayanda Dlodlo as well as Bheki Cele, the one insisting that they gave the report, the other saying that they did not receive it. What we heard yesterday is that the police minister essentially saying he'd only received the report after he'd appeared or testified at the KZN hearings. This was on the 3rd of December last year. Quite shocking, indicating as well that he had seen these dark clouds. You know, you could sense that something was about to unfold in KwaZulu-Natal. And when it did, he says as well he was quite concerned. A damning affidavit as well, which has been handed over to these hearings, in which basically he says that his national police commissioner, General Chriselda, was basically nowhere to be seen. You know that there's no love lost between those two. Reports at this current stage about a fractured relationship between the two. He was asked yesterday whether he believes that that relationship can be resolved. He basically said that he and the National Police Commissioner are not friends. They work together. So the job is being done, but you don't really get the sense that there is a good relationship between the two. So those are among some of the issues that we heard. Today we will hear, we understand, from the acting police provincial commissioner at the time of the unrest, General Tommy Mtombeni. And we're expecting him to talk about, what effect these riots had here in Gauteng, what the police's response was to when the violence itself had spread to this particular province, the damage, and a host of other things related to this particular province. And then we're expecting the former State Security Minister, Ayanda Dlodlo, to take the stand. And I guess one of the issues that she will be asked on is about where this intelligence report seemed to have gotten lost. Because remember, she was adamant that General Bheki Cele had been given this report. He maintained that he had not. So it will be very interesting to hear from the former intelligence minister, because Bheki Cele also indicating yesterday that from the three structures from which he expected or was supposed to receive a report from, an intelligence report, that simply did not happen. So a clear indication, him also conceding that a lot more could have been done to quell the violence after it had started, and had there been more preparation on the part of intelligence services and even within the South African Police Service, then I guess would not be talking about the kind of damage that we had seen following those riots.
And Chriselda, of course, people asking, after we saw the hearings and into the KwaZulu-Natal leg of these violent unrest that erupted, why is there then a need to have a separate focus on what happened in Gauteng?
Sakina, I beg your pardon, if you could repeat that again.
I was just saying, I see so many people asking, why do we need a separate focus on the violence in Gauteng, given that we've already heard what had happened in KwaZulu-Natal? And I suppose many people feel that, it's almost a sort of copy and paste job that should happen here. But obviously the Human Rights Commission feels differently. And, have they in any way stressed why there needed to be a separate hearing and sitting for what happened in Gauteng?
Certainly from where I am standing, Sakina, it certainly doesn't look like that it's a cut and paste job, because already we're beginning to hear more information about crucial events that should have taken place to avoid one of the most violent riots that we have seen in this country. So many people, of course, it indicated had died. More than 340 people had died. And we're already hearing from these hearings, in particular here in Gauteng, from what had started yesterday, how disjointed some of the structures, most important structures within the justice and security cluster, seem to be disjointed. So an indication, of course, that a lot more conversation needs to be had about exactly what happened to avoid the situation that we've seen. A number of reasons that General Bheki Cele had given about why he believes the riots had taken place. Of course, you did indicate in your intro there, him saying that what had ignited the violence was the arrest of former President Jacob Zuma. That and quite a number of issues that also spilled over into those riots that we saw take place in July. So I don't think really it's a cut and paste job, but more to delve into, I guess, how this can be avoided next time and where the shortcomings are. We're really being exposed to shortcomings here, where General Bheki Cele as well indicating that the fact that there wasn't a permanent intelligence head at the time indicated that perhaps somewhere information that should have filtered to him amongst other individuals did not filter at one of the most crucial times where I guess the extent of what we've seen pertaining to the violence should not have happened.
And I think that right there is a very plausible explanation, Chriselda, and it actually does make the case for why there should be a separate hearing to find out what happened in Gauteng. And I would imagine, in addition to the fact that the unrest started in KwaZulu-Natal and then it spread to Gauteng, and yet the reaction in Gauteng did not seem to indicate that, they would have expected or received any intelligence or anticipated that something similar could erupt here.
Absolutely, Sakina, and I think that's what the crux of the matter is, because in addition to ministers and former ministers that will testify here, we're also expecting the community from Alexandra, amongst others, the community from Soweto. You'd recall I'd been stationed in Soweto the majority of the time during the protests once they had spread here to Gauteng. So it's not just about hearing from the politicians themselves or those who were supposed to be leading, to try and quell the violence at the time, but also community members who have been severely impacted by this. You'd recall the damage that had been done. I always go back to the Diepkloof Square Mall, where there'd been massive damage there. It almost looked like nothing was going to be salvaged. We spoke to quite a number of individuals that had been affected, that had some of their stores there, wondering how they were going to be able to salvage this. So while we hear, indeed, yes, from where the violence started in KwaZulu-Natal, quite important as well to hear from those who had been affected in this particular province. So I'm not sure, but maybe logistical issues might have also been one of the issues at play, why you also had to have a second leg as well here in Gauteng, because to get to the crux of it, you're going to have to interview those who'd been affected in KwaZulu-Natal as well as here in Gauteng.
Chriselda, and we have you there to keep us up to speed with these developments throughout the day. Thanks so much for that. Chriselda Lewis, of course, our reporter on that beat, and has been doing a sterling job, will continue to do so for us with regard to the Human Rights Commission's hearings into the July unrest, the Gauteng leg of that particular situation.